I'm really excited. Our normal webinars, and Deanne, I know this is the first time that you're with us. In normal webinars, what we typically are doing is we're going through content, we're going through slide by slide. I'm giving you guys books, I'm giving you recommendations on things to start looking at. So as you are on your ship to shore transition, as you're figuring out what career path that you're going into, you have the tools and the resources in your toolbox from us to be doing this. But this webinar, I thought, let's just kind of take a moment to take a step back and talk a little bit about the vision and what Christian and I have been working on for probably close to a year, Christian, at this point. Probably close to a year, maybe a little bit less than that, 9 months at a minimum for Ship to Shore. And really, the goal in doing this is not to be talking about ourselves and say, oh, Ship to Shore, we're so wonderful, listen to us. But it's really to provide you guys some seeds of inspiration that as you look at what your future can look like, be it with an employer, be it with Ship to Shore, be it with your own business, that you guys can start looking at the path that we've walked to see how you can parallel that into what you do. And Christian, am I getting any feedback or anything? Or can you hear me okay?
I can hear you fine. Can everyone else hear it fine?
Yeah. And Wilhelmina, just keep an eye on everybody if anybody goes off mute too. And you guys at the bottom of your screen, you're going to see a little hand. If you have something that you want to chime in on, please do. This is an open forum. Just go ahead and raise your hand. But please don't be offended if we mute you just because we have some background noise coming from your computer. And then there's a little smiley face at the bottom of the screen. There you can send reactions. If there's something that you like that we say, you can just hit something. And thank you, Wilhelmina. And we'll keep talking on it, or feel free to raise your hand if you want to stop us and ask a question. So let's get started and just talk about Ship to Shore. So Deanne, do you mind a minute? Okay, there we go. I muted you, Deanne, because I think you had a little background noise. So where did this concept, I guess, come from? So Ship to Shore really, really truly is. We are the first company that has launched that our mission is providing employment for former cruise ship crew members. Our long-term vision is really about taking what a crew member's career path would be and taking it from a ship, having this really integrated relationship with a cruise line or a Starboard or a Park West or some of those other concessionaires that you guys know, and having a crew member be able to be in a position where they can raise their hand and say, hey, I got to go home. This is my last contract. And you guys know all the reasons why people leave ships. You've either said, okay, I want to have a kid. I want to live in that house that I built. I want to spend time with my parents who are getting older. We've heard stories of, and Christian, please feel free to interrupt me at any time, because Christian's the one that talks a lot to the candidates. I have a child who is having, they're getting to their teen years and I need to be at home with them. And so there's probably 100 reasons as to why you would leave a ship. And what we saw during COVID is my husband and I, who we met working on ships, we saw that there was a lot of crew members that got off and didn't go back to ships. And we kind of lifted our head and said, okay, what's happening with all these crew members? What are they doing? What are they doing? First and foremost, it was concern is saying, okay, what's happening to them? Are they okay? Are they finding employment? Are people, because, COVID was one of those things that you kind of got pushed off the ship and you were going, oh, I didn't know I was ready for this. I didn't know I was ready to live at home. I didn't want to live with my mom again. I didn't want, my house wasn't ready, whatever those things may be. And we just started asking. And I think that as you guys look at you making this transition from ship to shore, it's not about the literal, what am I going to do? There's a massive element in that. But it's really about making sure that you're asking the right questions about what your future looks like. And I think that people tend to kind of just go into life flying blindly and just taking whatever comes at them. And there's a lot more intentionality that can happen in your life by being really specific about the questions that you're asking. So going, okay, what is it do I actually want? Where is there a need where my skill set can fill? And for me, we immediately saw a need. I saw a need with all these former crew. I was like, where are they? What are they doing? And one of our other companies is we started identifying crew, and it almost spread like wildfire. Is that one crew member led to another crew member, led to another crew member that we started hiring. We're a small company. And I think we hired maybe 4 former crew in a very quick period of time. And then we're like, we can only hire so many. This is a much bigger problem. And as you look at business, as you look at anything that you're going to pursue, it's really about asking better questions. It's going, where is there a gap in the market? And where can I provide a solution? And for me as a person, and I did a post this week on LinkedIn that I'm sure you guys saw, that it's for me, this business is not about, oh, we're going to make all this money. It's really about, hey, we're going to serve a need. There are crew members that are in need. There are cruise lines or cruise partners within the cruise industry that are in need. And there's this gap that is connecting to them. And so how do I go into that space, and how do I be the one that connects it? And so as you look at anything that you wish to pursue, start identifying where you can, and this can be something as complicated as starting your own business, or something as simple as a job application. So as you're looking at a position that you're going, the bingo position that we're hiring for right now, is the bingo position is located in Florida. It's for one of the pretty much the main bingo supplier. And really his gap is that his clients are cruise lines. He's located in Florida. The cruise ships are an incredibly complex operation that he only knows from his 10 plus years of experience in working with them. And how does he find an individual that can fill that gap? And how can you show up in the interview process as being the solution to a problem? And we talked a few webinars ago about storytelling. And this is a really big part of who we are and who we can become, is that how we can craft a story so that we become the solution to the problem. And this is how Ship2shore kind of got born. So Krishna, I wanna allow you to chime in if there's anything that you want to build on, and raise your hand. I could talk for 3 years if you let me.
Absolutely.
So Krishna, tell me, is there anything that you want to build on from what I'm saying here?
No. It's exactly that. We identified a need, and then it was the right time. Not only, I mean, it's not so much that we were looking for an opportunity, but it was really what the pandemic, the end result of the pandemic, and seeing all these crew members that we were left ashore, kind of sort of say. The cruise industry was slowly gaining its flame back up, and slowly igniting one ship at a time. And there's tons of people that decided to even stay at home. Like even now, we see the cruise industry that it's gathering all their staff and crew members. It's people that have never been on board before. So I think it was the end of a generation and the beginning of a new one, kind of like at the end of an era, sort of say, because there was a lot of people, including myself, that if the pandemic hadn't hit, we would still be on board. So what you're saying about the comfort zone, I think is true. We all know it's a reality, right? Regardless of what faith or what philosophy you follow or you fill yourself with, we know that comfort zones are a fact. And I know that whether either you take the initiative to move out of your comfort zone, or life will push you out of it. So I think it's best that you push yourself out of it. So at least you have the energy and you know what's happening before it hits you.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's never easy. And starting up a business, taking on a new risk, and really starting a business, you're putting yourself on the line. You're putting your face, you're putting your name, you're saying, hey, this is what I'm doing, this is what I believe in. And, every time you're showing up to an interview or you're applying for a job, you're putting yourself on the line. And we've talked a lot about resilience, but it's really going, hey, if I know that this is my skill set, I know for me that because I have shoreside experience, because I have business experience, because I feel this passionate about the lives of crew, I'm the one that's able to step into that gap and resist any of the things in my instinctual human being. We're humans. We're supposed to protect. We're supposed to fight. We're supposed to flight. We have this really animalistic brain that we want to take care of ourselves. And so as we're stepping out and taking a risk, like, yeah, I can go get a job. Yeah, I can stay within the other company, but that doesn't make transformative change to individuals that are out there. And, we've kind of been approaching this is that if we can look at this as, hey, we're professionally developing existing crew. So we can start having conversations with them about, what interview skills are, what LinkedIn is, what, resilience is, what are those skills that they're going to need as they get off of a ship and go shoreside? Because you guys have all lived this, I guess, emotional withdrawal that you have to go to, that you're leaving part of your family behind and you're trying to define who you are. And especially if you spent more than a decade on board a ship, more than 10 years on board a ship, it's a real rough transition. And the more that, whether it's opening a business, whether it's applying for a job, whether it's, getting your land legs, the more that you can step into your situation as, and I've talked to so many crew members that they got off ships and they almost feel this like spider entitlement of that, hey, I need to be hired because of this, and how could I get left behind? And don't people value my skills? And I'm like, that's not the right approach to be taking. We need to be taking this approach of going, hey, this is what I learned, this is what I'm valuable, and this is what I can contribute into what I'm going to do. Be a business, be a job interview. And if somebody doesn't choose you, then they don't choose you. We have to, and that's why I look at the business is that, you know, I'm taking a massive risk. I'm opening this business. I'm doing something that nobody has ever done before. And so when nobody has ever done it before, you kind of start asking why no one's done it before. And it was like, oh, because I'm crazy and nobody's crazy enough to do this, or because it's groundbreaking, right? And I would like to believe the latter of it and go, all right, this is because nobody's been able to identify and connect to what all these needs are, or nobody's had the expertise to put all these pieces together. But the truth of the matter, there's fear in it. There's fear every single day. I'm presenting what our dream is, me and Christian really, out to major cruise lines, major subsidiaries of cruise lines, and saying, hey, pick me, pick me. And this is what you guys are doing as you apply for jobs and possibilities is you're going, hey, pick me, pick me. But your belief in, your company, your belief in your skill set and the value that you can add is going to determine how you can handle rejection that comes towards you. And I think that's really, really important is that us being able to define that, hey, if a company says no to me, if a cruise line says no to me, that doesn't reflect poorly on my idea. It just goes, okay, maybe I had the wrong person at the wrong time. Maybe another door is going to open at a different time. And this is a parallel mindset in us opening this to what you guys are going to experience on a day-to-day basis. Christian, do you want to add anything to that? What have you been
Yeah,
seeing, Christian, really from the candidates that you're talking to in terms of mindset? I'm curious to see kind of the spectrum of what you're hearing from people in terms of attitudes, perspectives, and nothing. I mean, my intention is not that we toot our own horn. It's just going, what are you seeing or feeling from people?
I think the vast majority is are people that are still on board and they're tapping and feeling the water and how it would be to be on land,
Mm,
trying to make the decision and make that leap of faith and to growing their land legs and finishing their career on board and then starting a new one on land. But we know that it's not always a smooth transition. We know that there's a lot of turmoil around it, and there's that uncertainty plus the difference in culture when you're living on board a ship and when you're coming to land. But I think the vast majority are still on board and looking for I mean, you have the good mix, right? You have the people that have been on land for a while, and or the ones that are currently on vacation after an extended vacation, and they're seeing the what they want to stay on land, and the family, and the trying to pursue their own dreams and build a career, or take their careers in a different direction. Because we know that a lot of people that were working, used to be working on board, you would have lawyers on the dining room, you would have doctors working in housekeeping. So it takes different types of talent in different departments. So there's a lot of people that want to start doing something with their career so they can transition to land. So it's a good mix of different interests and profiles as well.
Yeah, yeah. And how about attitudes? What are you hearing from people? What's the spectrum of what you're getting?
I would say like expectancy, like they have big expectations, and they're looking towards a bright future. It's excitement. It's mainly, it's like following a dream, right? It's like pursuing relentlessly what they want to do. Because you have to be a little bit crazy to be a crew member in the beginning. So that same craziness will
Mhm.
carry with you regardless of where you go. But it's a positive attitude. It's looking for a bright opportunity so that they
Yeah.
can transition.
Yeah, and I think there's something really useful about, thinking when you're starting a company, you're not making money, you're making investment in the beginning. And I think that you kind of have to parallel that to getting off ships, is that, you may have left ships in a management role or in something that you've grown into over years and years. And sometimes when you get off, you have to take a step back to take a step forward. And going into a corporate office, going into, I was a manager when I was shipboard, and I went into a specialist role when I came shoreside with Royal Caribbean. And that's the same as a business. If you really want to get your foot in the door in somewhere where you're gonna grow, is you have to be able to acknowledge that, yeah, I'm bringing experience to the table, but also I'm going to learn, and this company is investing in me and teaching me. And a great example of that is, like our visual merchandising position that we have open right now, is that position, yeah, we're going to find some people that do actually a visual merchandising experience, but there's going to be somebody else who's just somebody who has retail or shopping experience, um, shops experience, that the company is willing to make an investment in this person because of their time on board ships, because of how they can navigate a shipboard environment, because of their willingness to learn. And sometimes that step back allows you to take quicker strides forward. So if I hadn't had my shipboard experience, I wouldn't have progressed in my career in the way that I did, because my shipboard experience gave me this drive, this determination, this resilience that not most people have. So you might have to go into a role that is what you would perceive as a downgrade, but you get to bring into that. You kind of already have like this Red Bull or this adrenaline, or you have this energy, this jet fuel that is in you that can project you forward more quickly than your coworker that has just been in the corporate world. Um, so don't forget that the power of your experience. And that's where I look at I had the blessing of being a activities manager and cruise staff, where that, if you really think about it, is a pretty embarrassing job. Like you have to teach line dances, you have to do bingo, you have to be in ridiculous costumes, you have to do some things that you're like, what? That's part of my job? Like, you can't even, parades, you guys know that from the royal ships, things that you can, you're like, I got a college education and this is what I'm going to do is teach line dances. And there's major humility that goes into that. But that humility pushed me to get rid of my ego. So now when I'm presenting myself to companies, to cruise lines, to my connections, to say, hey, I'm doing this thing that I love and I'm passionate about, that's freaking scary. To the idea of getting rejected by people that are, in executive level positions within the cruise industry. That's super duper scary. But thank God I have been in a 70s costume on, in the disco, that you go, that's scary too for somebody that's straight out of college. So that little see that moment in time gave me the strength and the resilience to be able to experience this future moment and going, oh, if I can do that, I for sure can do this. And what's the worst thing that can happen if somebody says no? And I think that I had this really great friend once that there was this investment that we were doing, and one of the I'll never forget this because it was so impactful for me at that moment. You know, when people say something to you at this one moment in time in your life and it just sticks with you, is I was talking about this investment and I was like, oh my gosh, and I just don't know. I want to do this thing. And I think part of the investment was like debt or I don't remember. It had to do with our house though. And she was like, well, Barbara, what's the worst case scenario? Is the bank takes your house? And I was like, that literally, it, she was saying it in such a casual way. Like, what's the worst case scenario? Like, it's no big deal. You get a new house. Like, you recover. And and I couldn't even fathom because that was such a massive failure for me. None of that happened, but I appreciated the shock of the perspective. So every single time you're looking at putting yourself out there into whatever you're going to do, be it opening a business, be it applying for a job, whatever that thing is, you have to go, okay, let me, in this moment, I'm feeling fear. In this moment, I'm feeling insecurity. In this moment, I'm feeling naked in front of the audience, whatever it may be. But you really have to get on the train to go, okay, what's the worst case scenario of what's going to happen here? That this CEO says no, or this person doesn't return my email, or this, does that mean that that person gets to define my worth? Does that mean that that person gets to define what my future is going to look like? No. The house gets foreclosed on and you move on. And that applying for a job is not something as drastic as that. Getting fired from a job is not something drastic as that. And you guys hear over and over and over again, people who have had tremendous, tremendous success in their lives are the ones that can actually embrace and go straight on looking at failure. It's going, hey, this thing happened to me. I got fired. I lost this job. I did this thing. I did da, and I failed. But that was an incredible learning opportunity to where I was meant to be or where I'm going. So I think that those are part of opening a business, part of putting yourself out there and taking massive risk is being okay with being laughed at, being okay with people saying things that it's not going to succeed. And you have to look at who's saying it. It's the people that probably don't have dreams or don't have the strength. It's people who have been in the same job for 25 years and the ones that are not willing to take a risk. But for me, when I look at Ship2shore, I'm like, hey, these are lives. These are people that have gotten off a ship that have believed that that their experience is not being seen or heard or valued. And if we can become a conduit to connect that gap, boom, the rest is easy. And right now, our focus is really cruise industry. So we were initially just cruise lines, and then we started getting into industry interest. So from other people that are still connected to cruise lines, and we expanded a little bit to industry. I think in the future we could become more, so we could go outside of the cruise industry and into the supplier world, into some other areas, ports and destinations. But us being continually, and you being able to continually have a vision on what the future can look like, that it doesn't mean this. And I got challenged by somebody within the cruise industry 2 weeks ago, I think it was, is she was like, Barbara, your company has so many arms to it. I need you to write 5 different business plans for what these arms. We started with talking about it as a stool. There's 3 legs on the stool. And then the more that we talked about it, she was like, no, it's a chair now. There's 4 legs on it. And so she sent me away with homework to start working on these 4 legs of this chair. And the more that you can, and literally every other week, I'm on the phone with somebody that's smarter, that's better. And my ask to them is, I'm like, hey, I'm going to tell you what I'm super passionate about. I fully acknowledge how biased I am because I believe so much in what I'm doing. And I'm asking you to engage in this conversation with me so you can poke holes and take off my blinders for the things that I'm not saying. I don't want to be on a call with you so that you tell me, oh, Barbara, you're so smart. Oh, this is great. You're changing people's lives. I don't want to hear that. I want to hear You didn't think of this. You didn't think of that. What about that? Go down that path. And some of the advice I'm going to take, some of it I'm not going to take. But us as human beings being humble enough and being open enough to say, hey, I want to hear the stuff, even if it's not in alignment with what I'm going to do, even if it's not in alignment with my beliefs, even if it's not in alignment with where I saw this company going, they're going to at least send me on a path of discovery to poke holes and to ask questions. So this is a company that we're talking about. Can you imagine what your life could look like if you started doing that with your own personal self? If you started asking people to give you feedback and not the feedback that you want to hear. Going, hey, if you are me, if you, and I find that this is a really, really great question to ask. So write this down, is that if you say to people, hey, what can I do better? People are too nice. They're not going to tell you what you could do better. They're going to go, oh, I think you're wonderful. But if you tell people, hey, if you, Christian, were sitting in my shoes today, what are the 3 things that you would do immediately? And that person's going to go, oh, that's a great question. So let me put myself in your shoes today. Okay, this is what I would do. I would do this, this, and this. Then it takes the me and the possibility of them offending me out of the picture. And then they give me real tangible things. And again, I may take 1 of the 3 things that they give me. I may take 3 of the 3 things that they give me. But all that I know is that I've asked somebody that has experience, that has perspective, that has something different. And I don't care if somebody, I've talked to Adam Goldstein, who's the former CEO of Royal Caribbean. He introduced me to a gentleman, a friend of his, who oversees a staffing company, who he is in medical staffing, if I'm not mistaken. He was in medical staffing. And so I kind of said, hey, this is my company. This is what it looks like. Poke holes in it. And he's in a completely different world than me, but he gave me some great, great, great advice. I talked to the son of one of my mentors, so she's on our board, and he is in staffing as well, but he does it for the Centers for Disease Control, the CDC. He gave me totally different advice, really, really different advice. It was really, really great. But if I'm humble enough that I can take all those teeny tiny nuggets from all of those individuals, boom, like that is transformative to who I become. But the question is, and my sermon is gonna stop in a minute, you guys. But the question becomes is, can you humble yourself enough? Can you have thick enough skin to be open to that feedback and that advice and asking for that help? Can you be okay if somebody rejects you when you ask for that help? This one lady within the cruise industry, girlfriend, I must have sent her, I don't know how many emails. And I can't get offended when she doesn't reply to my email. I can't get offended. I have to just say, she's busy. So I'm going to keep going. And then really 3 is going, can you actually filter through what they're saying and apply the right things to your life? And it doesn't matter. A lot of people that go into these conversations, well, A, you don't even want to ask for help. But B, you don't want to listen. And so people are going to shut down and they're not going to give you the advice because they know that you're going to argue with them, or they know that you're going to counter whatever they're saying. So I want to, Christian, tell me, you went off mute.
No, I wanted to
build up what I'm saying.
in lines of what you were saying of pursuing a dream, and there was I don't know if you guys ever heard it, and those of you that were on board, there was a big saying on board of when you were, it was every crew member that was on board with you, they were running away from something, including yourself, whether it be routine, whether it be, I mean, I wouldn't imagine that, right? But routine, or I don't know, the way your culture around your neighborhood or whatever it was, but everybody had a reason to run away from it. And when you were young, you jump on a ship for that. But then there's a moment in time that everything, the switch snaps, and all of a sudden you're running towards something. And that's because back in the days you were joining a ship and it was just like a summer job, and even people would mock you back home saying, when are you going to get a real job? Because those were not considered real jobs. People were on it for a contract, maybe 2. but then slowly and generationally started changing so that people were slowly making that switch and making actually a career out of it. And that's when the cruise industry started having a boom. And out of, you would very seldom hear about taking a cruise, and all of a sudden now you turn on the TV and you cannot go a whole day without watching an ad about a cruise line. So it's slowly, and the way that affected individuals on board is like, you were, instead of running away from something, now you were running towards something. So people were save, and maybe they're starting to build on a career, or they were being engaged in a relationship on board, or, but all of a sudden you started making that change into pursuing a dream, and turning it into so much like a goal. You set a goal for yourself, what you were going to do with your time, with your career, and with your time on board, rather than it just being a summer job. Now it's a project that you're building on. And the same transitions to land. Now it's that, making that step from transitioning from when you were on board now to that we're on land. It's the same thing. It's making that, running towards something instead of running away from ships. Now it's really having that focus of where, and determination of where you want to go to.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good point, because I think on ships, like all of a sudden you get on and every single crew member says, I'm going to do one contract or two contracts or whatever it is. They're going to do this fun travel, something or other. And then all of a sudden you get on board and you're surrounded by these people who, it's actually inspirational journey that they've been on. They're like, oh, I was a dishwasher. I was guest services. I was cruise staff, and I've grown through the ranks in this period of time. And then you're like, if this person can do it, I can do it. And I'm in this petri dish that can teach me. But I'm curious to know, Christian, I'll tell mine. What was your running away? So and Carol, you can feel free to tell yours, or anybody else who wants to, is that I'll tell mine first, but for me, I grew up in middle America in this small town outside of Chicago. I think my town had 25,000 people, 20 people in it. Like the most exciting thing that was in my town was a Taco Bell 2 towns over. And when an Applebee's opened, it was like we had won the lottery, because we had a restaurant that wasn't McDonald's. But I went to a conservative Christian college, but it was a college that wanted you to travel and wanted you to explore. And ships for me was, I had been raised in this bubble, and I knew that there was more to the world. And I said, all right, I'm going to go on a ship. No one knows who I am. Nobody knows my values. Nobody knows my experience. Nobody knows where I've come from. And I get to, for the first time in my life, really, truly define who I want to be. And it was this cool, fun, exploratory phase. And little did I know what it would become. So, yeah, I remember being at a crew party. I really hadn't drank at all in my life, because I went to this conservative Christian college. And I remember like at crew parties, there's, Wilhelmina, for you, there's like garbage cans with ice, and they put all the beer and stuff inside the garbage can. And I was like, so you just take it? Like I thought it was going to be so much different than it actually was. And I'm like, I could do anything. I could get drunk and dance on the tables, and my pastor at home is not going to know. Didn't do that, but it was just this moment of like, I get to discover who I am, and nobody gets to judge it. The only judge is me. And that's what I loved about ships. So Christian, tell me yours.
I think it was running away mainly from monotony. And then the neighborhood what I was growing on, it was constant movement. We were constantly traveling because of my dad's job. But at some point, I just saw that everyone around me, like friends and family, they were all living the same life, kind of like finishing school, getting a job, getting married, having kids. And then I felt like they were living, nothing wrong with it, but it was just not me. Like, we're all different, right? And I didn't find too much joy in the fact of living the same year over and over and over again. Like, I wanted it to be different year after year, and maybe day after day. Like, I could not sit in an office and do the same thing every single day. I mean, we're all wired differently, but myself, like, I knew that I had to have a little bit of adventure and challenge, and not live the same life that everyone else around me was living, because I knew I was not going to fit. I knew I was not going to be happy. Mind you, jumping on board was not easy. Like, I think I cried for the first month and a half in my cabin at the end of the night. But I knew that I had to push myself out of that if I wanted to do something different, right? Because I was beginning to be wired in a way that I knew that I was not going to last. It was not going to be self-sustainable for so long. So I think it was just that running away from monotony and running away from from falling and living someone else's life, you know? So I think that's what really did it for me.
I love that. I love that. And then you get addicted, right? And then you're like, I'm surrounded by these interesting people. How could I not do this?
But I think
You
the same thing
know?
is going to happen every time you make a comfort zone out of where you run away from, but where you run to, where you run
Yeah.
towards, and you're there long enough, you're going to turn it into a comfort zone. And every time I
Yeah.
just feel comfortable, like, man, I'm going to have to move now because either life's going to move me or I'm going to do it myself. So here
Yeah.
we go.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and there's something really, really special though about shipboard people in that, and I always give this analogy. I feel like being a crew member, it's like you're the only parallel that I can give is like the army that you're so connected to each other because you've been through almost like this hazing together. You've been through all these really intimate experiences, sharing meals to working to, just the laughter and also the stress, like screaming at each other or getting screamed at by somebody, and then being able to have a beer afterwards. Like being able to experience that spectrum of emotion with somebody in such a short period of time gives you this intense bonding. So I love that. I love that what you said. And I didn't know you cried, that you were homesick. I don't think I was homesick. I can't remember. Carol, were you homesick?
I was in the beginning. Yeah, very, because I was a super, super shy girl who just took off to the US. Well, I actually went to London first to do my training with Steiner. But once I got on board my first ship, which was the Monarch of the Seas in Puerto Rico, I was so excited to be earning US dollars and working out the exchange rate, coming from South Africa. Working in the spa, we used to work like 12 hours straight doing aroma spa and facials and what have you. And that wasn't enough for me. On embarkation day, I used to clean staterooms for some extra dollars. Hello,
Wow,
can you
that's
hear me?
so good. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So I was just blown away. I just absolutely loved it. My first contract was supposed to be 8 months. I extended to 11 months. And
oh my
then,
God.
yeah, ended up staying on for 8 years. And I joined in 1998 and then met Alan, my husband, in 2001. Or sorry, in
Yeah,
98. We got married in 2001. And then I left the Radiance. You were still on board with me. I
yep,
left six months pregnant to fly home, and yeah, obviously didn't return to ships. So
yeah,
if I hadn't been pregnant, I definitely would have returned for another contract. I absolutely loved it.
yeah. No, it's such an amazing like. No, thank you. I didn't know that. That's so cool.
Yeah, just
I don't know
great
why I didn't.
experience.
Maybe I blocked the homesickness out of my mind. I don't know. Maybe I was. I don't remember, but I remember walking with a lot of crew members through their homesickness, and I would always just say, hey, if you can get through 2 weeks, you're golden. Like you just got to get through your safety trainings and all that. Once
Mm,
you get through that, you get to finally sleep again and eat a little bit more, and then you get through. But I love that. Yeah, so I want to kind of full circle a little about what we're talking about is that, I guess my main my main thinking behind all of this is that, everybody's story is different. Carol's is different, Christian's is different from mine. We all went to ships for very different reasons. We opened Ship to Shore for reasons that you can totally completely relate to or not relate to. But for me, it opening this business, starting what we're doing is about making a massive shift in perspective. And the beauty is that everybody within the cruise industry thus far can get why we're doing what we're doing. And we're going to experience ups, we're going to experience downs, we're going to experience huge successes. You know, Starboard's success in that contract was huge. We're going to hit downs where we present the wrong candidates and we mess up, or we're going to wait a long time on a contract, or we're going to get frustrated about something. But really, truly, us being able to keep the vision of our long game, and our long game is transforming crew lives. And when we transform crews' lives and what they can earn and how they believe in themselves and how they can find balance, that in turn transforms their family, that in turn transforms their community. So for us, the more that we can get out of the actual tactical things that we're doing in the business and keep our eyes on the high level vision of the transformation that we're working through, is then that's when we can't be selfish. That's when it can't be about our egos. That's when our ego dies, is when we're going, no, 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 I'm doing this for a bigger reason. So as you guys think about the job that you're applying for, and it can be one job, it can be one business, it can be anything. As you take your ego, you getting let down, or you not being called for the thing, or you not passing this thing, that rejection is just another badge in your armor that you get to go, all right, that was good. I learned something from it. I'm going to get better because of the next one. You're going to be asking questions to the right people. You're not just going to be blindly shooting in the dark, but you're going to go, okay, who can help and guide me? Who can provide me light? Who can provide me coaching? Who can provide me something that will help me go down the wrong path? Because our ego is one that stops us from asking for help and asking for other people. I can't do this by myself. I can't do this without Carol, without Wilhelmina, without Christian, without the mentors that we have. I talked to one of my mentors this week, on Monday actually, and said, hey, I need your help. Talk me through this situation. And she poked 10 holes in it. And I'm so grateful for it. And I'm going to take 5 of them probably. But I have to ask those questions because this individual, she's, how old is she? She's 30 years my senior. Maybe I'll insult her, 20 years my senior. But either way, she has different life experiences than me that add value. And so think about how you transform that into what your future looks like. Think about how you perceive failure. Think about how you perceive challenges. Is that when we can't be offended by what someone does or says about our business, about our experience, about our resume, when we can just say, oh, that's interesting. Thank you for telling me that. Then that's when we actually get stronger. That's when our superpower builds. And then that's when we see transformation in our life as we go, people can come to me and say, no, that's a silly business. I don't understand it. And I'll go, thank you for your perspective. I appreciate it. Why do you say that? And they'll tell me, show me a blind spot that maybe I didn't see that will help me fix and get better. So the more that we can do that in our lives, and as we build out this business, we're going to hit walls and we're going to bump into stuff. But the more that we can turn, shift, ask for help is when we get better and stronger. And then that's when you build a company that's resilient and lasts for, a decade, 2 decades. And our other company, I think it is 15 years old, if I'm not mistaken. Our other company is about 15 years old. And I think the statistics are insane. It's like 85% of businesses, small businesses, don't go beyond 5 years. And then there's another, I think only 1% get over $1 million in revenue. So there's all these statistics that if you can just keep pushing, and most of it has to do with resilience and mindset and asking for advice. Is somebody that says, oh, I know this widget is going to sell for this reason, because they're saying stuck on their vision and they're not asking for people what they could do better and differently. So take that and parallel that into your life, parallel that into your job search, parallel that into your relationships. Go, who can I ask questions to, and how do I ask better questions in everything that I do? All right, Christian, anything else you want to add? Plugs for stuff that you have out there? And remember, you guys, we're going to take these and put them onto our YouTube channel. We'll send them out via email. And then we just started last week doing a blog. So make sure that you share and read our blog. It's basically summaries of these. So if you have 3 minutes versus 45 minutes to read something, we appreciate it. Christian? Guide us
And
into this
just
week.
just to capitalize on the fact that it's kind of like a slow start as we are gaining the trust and we're waiting for the signatures for major cruise lines for us to have more jobs that we can position and put the job openings for. But as they're slowly happening, and as the floodgates begin to open, I think this is going to be good. We're going to help a lot of people so that they can make that transition that they're so eager to and so waiting for as well. So like you said, like it's not like a selfish thing that we're doing, right? We're doing something because that's what filled us, that's what moved us, and we know that we can't find out something that will give us more joy than sharing this experience with other people and with our colleagues and people that have been through what we have as well. And not that we're looking at it from a pedestal, but rather, I mean, we're all in the same path, right? We're all in the same journey together. So it's just lending that helping hand and providing that experience so that we can pave the road for those that are coming after us, and the same way that they did it for us, those that came before us. So I'm happy for this. I know that we're continuously moving on this. So just stay put.
And what a blessing that I get to work with these amazing people. So thank you, guys. All right. Well, you guys know how to reach us. Thank you for attending today, and stay in touch, and keep your fingers crossed for the next big contract that is coming our way. Thank you, Wilhelmina, for sharing that link, and have a great week, you guys. Bye.
Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.